Hello there my Jedi and Sith friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. It is I coming at you once again, your friend and your favourite galactic hostess, Star Wars Meg. And today we have an interesting update coming out of the playlist. They recently once again sat down with Steven Soderbergh, legendary and revered filmmaker who was the person responsible for The Hunt for Ben Solo, the cancelled Star Wars movie that Adam Driver spilled the beans about. It was supposed to be the sequel to Episode 9. I don't know how, but they were going to resurrect Ben Solo after his death. And as you're probably aware at this point, Lucasfilm loved it. Adam Driver said Kathleen Kennedy was on board, even Dave Filoni was all for it, so was Carrie Beck, and a few others at Lucasfilm. But when they brought it to Bob Iger and Alan Bergman, they said no, after a lengthy process of not even bothering to read the script. But then when they finally looked at it, their response was, "We can't keep resurrecting dead characters," even though that's not stopped them in the past. But Kylo Ren was a step too far, and so the movie was scrapped. Steven Soderbergh did 2 years of unpaid work, and it's no surprise he's still very salty about it. And since all of this information came out, fans of the concept of the movie, Ben Solo fans, sequel fans, even those who didn't even like episodes 7, 8 and 9 but just like the character of Ben, have been rallying behind the Save the Hunt for Ben Solo campaign. They've gone to crazy lengths to put out the message. Billboards, freaking skydiving, protests, you name it. It's been absolutely wild. And even if I'm not the biggest sequel fan, you have to admire the dedication and the passion. But today, my friends, if you're a Ben Solo truther, if you wanted this movie to be made, a lot of hope has been quashed. In his new interview with the playlist, Steven Soderbergh destroys the idea that the movie can still be made, and he doesn't have much interest in coming back to make it happen in 2026. Now, before we jump the gun, with Star Wars, and pardon the irony, no one's ever really gone. We have seen stories and characters once considered dead make a huge resurgence. The Clone Wars Season 7 is a great example of that, and so is what Dave Filoni is doing in Maul's Shadow Lord, bringing some of George Lucas's once dead sequel treatments back to life. So even though Steven Soderbergh is saying, no, I'm not coming back, if the movie was going to happen, it would have happened, and now I'm done, there's always a chance that someone else, another creative, does resurrect the scripts, or does bring back some of those ideas. And if we're talking about the galaxy post-Episode 9, the best place to tease some of that stuff is in Shawn Levy's work, in Star Wars Starfighter coming next May. I know it's a standalone, but it's the only confirmed post-Episode 9 film that is actually happening. We could talk about the new Jedi Order movie, or the upcoming trilogy supposedly in the works, but those are nowhere near as concrete. I'm not saying Starfighter is going to have a Ben Solo connection, but if the box office is good, and they decide to do a sequel, if they decide to revive even the smallest elements of Steven Soderbergh's work, that would be a fitting place to do it. Although, like I say, in spite of some overlap with the time period, in terms of the characters and the themes, I don't see how the two ideas would fit. How you can reconcile Shawn Levy's work, the fun thrill ride that is going to be Starfighter, with the darker, Force-centric stuff of Steven Soderbergh. But let's take a look at what was said. Once it became clear the project was not going to happen, he did not linger on it. And here's his quote: "I sat down and started writing something else. It's like, okay, new scenario, let's get cracking." At a certain point, it's like complaining about the weather. You just gotta keep moving. And for now, Soderbergh has a pile of scripts on his desk, so he's moving on from Star Wars. And he finishes with this: "Look, if it was gonna happen, it would have happened. It's that simple." So there you have it, guys. I feel really bad for those who are really excited about this, you know, because if it was something I was really passionate about, a project, a character or time period I really loved, I too would have been really bummed out. And I will just say this, Ben Solo or otherwise, Disney not pursuing a Steven Soderbergh Star Wars project is a major, major loss. I don't know if I've mentioned this in previous videos, but whenever I've seen a Steven Soderbergh film, it was entirely, you know, by accident. I didn't go in knowing they were Soderbergh films. The two that come to mind are Presence, which I saw in 2024, and the second one is Unsane, which I recently watched on Prime, and I have to say I'm very impressed by everything I've seen so far. I have to figure that the hunt for Ben Solo was going to go into the more ethereal aspects of the Star Wars universe. I'm sure Rey would have been part of it, and I don't think it would have been a very straightforward movie. There would have been some psychological elements to it, there would have been like a layered, multi-dimensional plot, and if the rumors are true that the Legacy of Vader comics were meant to tie into the hunt for Ben Solo, then we would have seen the netherworld of the Force. And now you're talking about Ewan, Hayden, Liam Neeson, Mark Hamill, and a few others. And speaking of Mark, while we're on the topic of different creatives reacting to Dave Filoni's leadership, Mark Hamill is very enthusiastic about the future of Star Wars, noting that Dave Filoni understands the Star Wars franchise so well because he worked directly under George, and to Mark, George Lucas is the only person who really understands Star Wars. I agree, there are some wonderful creatives at Lucasfilm, but George's imagination, his level of innovation, is the gold standard, and Mark says, quote, George was a mentor to Dave, so he knows George's sensibilities. And look, anytime someone comes out and praises Dave, or on the other end bashes Dave, it sparks a passionate fan debate. Some people say he's no different to Kathleen Kennedy, others believing he's the savior of Star Wars, but these days, I take every project as it comes, and I hope for the best. I would say I believe in Dave more than most, but I'm under no illusion that he's perfect. The change of leadership was definitely needed, but at the moment we're operating on a wait-and-see basis. It's great to see Dave with so much conviction for something like More Shadow Lord Season 2, but I think it's too soon to say. His track record will become apparent over time. Patience. But one final thing for Steven Soderbergh, he was asked about whether Tony Gilroy's Andor had anything to do with the energy that once existed around the hunt for Ben Solo. He said it did not, but only because conversations with Driver had started well before the series was made. He says this, well, I don't want to say it had no influence, because then it makes it seem like, you know, I watched Andor, and it had absolutely no impact on me, which is not true. It was great. But this was all before Andor aired. Adam and I started talking, and this would have been almost 3 years ago. But when asked if the door is open even just a little bit for the return of Ben Solo, his answer was brutally short. Nope. Just a simple, nope, not gonna happen. It's over. But could someone eventually revive it if they decide to do more with animation? Which is what was teased by Athena Portillo. If there's ever a post-Episode 9 sequel series, they could bring some of those ideas back there. Or as some people have suggested, if the movie is well and truly dead, why doesn't Steven Soderbergh just post the script online? I know he says he's done and everything, but it sounds like he's still licking his wounds. He still sounds very pissed off and frustrated about the whole thing, and who can really blame him? But what do you guys think? Should the hunt for Ben Solo be well and truly dead? Do you want to see it come back? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, my friends, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.